Let's with number 7, I'm just gonna make some space for myself. I know you guys are jealous that you can't do that. The problem here is we have 2 fractions, we're gonna add them together. This is not cross multiplication, but I'm gonna take the denominator from over here, which is sine, and I'm gonna multiply it on top and on bottom, because it'll create cosine times sine. Then I'm going to take cosine from the fraction on the right and bring it over here, top and bottom, because it creates cosine sine denominator. Right? So I have a common denominator. I'm going to pause it for a second. I want you guys to do the multiplication on top, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so you were multiplying it out, and I'll do the stuff in blue. When you distribute over here, cosine times sine, and then this is cosine times cosine, so that's cosine squared. Over here on the red one, we're multiplying these. So I have sine times cosine, and it's negative, so negative cosine of theta times sine of theta. And then sine times sine is sine squared of theta. So hopefully you had that written down. One of the things maybe you noticed right away is that those are both a positive and a negative. So when you go to add them together, they add up to 0. So we're going to get rid of them. What do you notice about these 2 things? What's cosine squared plus sine squared?
1.
1. It's the number one Pythagorean identity. So what's left on top is a 1 over cosine of theta times sine of theta. Then what I would do is, I just have 1 term left. The bottom, you can see the different factors up top. You could split it up into factors. What are some factors of 1?
1.
So we're going to go 1 over cosine of theta times 1 over sine of theta. And what do you get? What's 1 over cosine? What's 1 over sine? So that would be our final answer. All they mean here is FOIL. So what do you notice about the 2 factors in the parentheses? They're the same, except for the sign in the middle. So you might call them a conjugate. The middle term is changing there. Or excuse me, the middle sign is changing. So I only need to do the first and last because the OA part will cancel itself out. So cotangent times cotangent is cotangent squared of x. Cosecant minus cosecant is negative cosecant squared of x. Now, go to the page if you need to, but there's a Pythagorean theorem that says 1 plus cotangent squared is equal to cosecant squared.
Yeah.
So 1 plus cotangent squared is cosecant squared. So you're going to go like this. Instead of this, we're going to write 1 minus cotangent squared of x, right? But that's got a negative in front. So let's put it in parentheses with the negative in front.
So you want cotangent?
Why would you that?
Oh, I wrote 1 minus, people. It's got to be 1 plus. 1 plus. 1 plus cotangent squared is equal to cosecant squared. So there's your Pythagorean identity.
Yeah.
If if you want to change the cotangent squared, you have to get cotangent by itself over there. So you could take cotangent squared and say it's cosecant squared of x minus 1. So if you want to do that substitution, go ahead. That would look like this. I could have done cosecant squared of x minus 1 minus cosecant squared of x. So if I make that substitution, like I change that out for cosecant squared minus 1, so now you have the red and the blue. So this is what I talk about. You're working with a group. Somebody goes that way, somebody goes that way. Well, in blue, what's going to happen? Cosecant squared minus a cosecant squared. What are they left with? Negative 1. The person that does the red one, they're going to distribute the negative sign. What happens? Cotangent squareds are opposite. They're left with negative 1 also. So whenever you see these square terms, you should automatically start thinking about, could I use a Pythagorean identity? And then it doesn't matter which one you do. Now, I think this blue one, doing the blue one is actually a little bit easier because you avoid messing around with that negative sign. Whereas when you do the red one, that part right there, I see a lot of students leave the negative out front. They write down 1 plus cotangent squared. So they actually give the negative to the 1, which is great, but they forget to give the negative to the cotangent. So, you know, some people avoid doing that. Either way, we're done. Because that's an extra page in your notes that we don't do.